Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story this hour. Big divides and widening fissures became the overwhelming theme at the G20 foreign ministers meet in New Delhi, with any form of consensus on the issue staying elusive at best. The meeting came on the backdrop of fractured East-West relations over the conflict in Ukraine and over an assertive China. The global divisions also lay bare at other instances during the meet. For instance, Russia and China jointly criticized the West for employing blackmail and threats against other countries, following a meeting of the two countries' foreign ministers at the G20. The G20 meet is also important for the bilateral discussions which are taking place on its sidelines. The foreign ministers of India and China held one such meet. The meeting comes amid the backdrop of the growing tensions on the line of actual control between the two nations.
Listen, they say that Russia should face a strategic defeat, that allegedly it is an existential problem for the West. They stated explicitly, they don't conceal it, they would like the attempt to preserve their hegemony on world arena.
And today, when addressing the participants of the foreign minister meeting, President Modi, I think he presented balanced and responsible position of the country as the president of the G20.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, on the other hand, said that the meeting has again been marred by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He further urged G20 to call on Russia to withdraw its forces. Meanwhile, India is trying hard to bridge the rift.
We may not always be of one mind. In fact, there are some matters of sharp differences of opinions and views. Yet, we must find common ground and provide direction, because that is what the world expects of us. As G20 foreign ministers, we can send a collective message affirming our determination to address the complex challenges that we face at this juncture.
India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar also held bilateral discussions with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Meetings were also held between the representatives of other nations. However, most crucial bilaterals between foreign ministers of the U.S. and Russia or the U.S. and China will not happen this time around. Now, addressing foreign ministers at the beginning of the meet, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi flagged the deep global divisions.
Financial crisis, climate change, pandemic, terrorism and wars clearly shows that global governance has failed. You are meeting at a time of deep global divisions. As foreign minister, it is but natural that your discussions are affected by the geopolitical tensions of the day.
Now we're bringing you all the latest from New Delhi on the ongoing G20 foreign ministers meet. Big divides and widening fissures becoming the overwhelming theme at this year's G20 foreign ministers meet, with any form of consensus on the issue staying elusive at best. Now, this G20 comes on the backdrop of the fractured East-West relations over the conflict in Ukraine and over an assertive China. We've seen the global divisions laid bare at other instances as well. For instance, Russia and China have jointly criticized the West for employing blackmail and threats against other countries. Following a meeting of two countries' foreign ministers at the G20, this G20 meet is also important for bilateral discussions which are taking place on its sidelines. We have seen numerous bilateral meetings taking place. Foreign ministers of India and China held such a meet. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Olena Tregua, the Executive Director of the Independent Defense Anti-Corruption Commission, NACO, from Ukraine, joining us live from Dublin. Thank you for being with us, Olena. Now, we saw at this G20, Russia and China jointly criticized the West for employing blackmail and threats against other countries. There seems to be a move towards a complete split between countries. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that it's very bad for the world. It's very bad for the global security because no country, not India, not China, should tolerate the world order where one country just can go without actually any reason invade a neighboring country in a genocidal war and destroy its infrastructure, undermine supply chains of everything in the world, the food security, undermine our global, concern about the global warming, climate change. All that was done by Russia. And I don't understand really why countries, just because of these divisions between East and West, between Western countries and Eastern countries, why countries like India do not recognize that Russia essentially is ruining our world. It's not about East or West.
Right, Olena, how do you see India's role in trying to navigate its path in keeping a neutral stance with these tensions due to the Russia-Ukraine war?
Well, I think to some extent, of course, it is helpful that India, takes this position that there are definitely red lines that Russia should not cross, like it's unacceptable for Russia to threaten with nuclear weapons and even consider using nuclear weapons. Also, India should say that Russia should stop targeting civilian infrastructure, stop killing civilians, because Russia keeps pounding Ukrainian cities several times per day, every day, just destroying a peaceful life, destroying a country, destroying economy, and hundreds of thousands of peaceful lives. So India definitely can take position on this. India shouldn't say that they support NATO, but India definitely supports peace in the world. And Russia is an aggressive country. And the reasons why Russia invaded Ukraine are mainly internal Russian reasons to preserve the corrupt regime of Vladimir Putin. These are the real reasons. It's not about NATO expansion. And I think politicians do understand it, but they play this game of division between West and East, and as if NATO ever threatened Russia. NATO never threatened Russia. And I think that your politicians in India do understand it very well, but they don't talk publicly about it.
Right, Olena. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the meeting has been marred by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Take us through the statements that we heard from him earlier. Olena, I'll repeat the question. We saw U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying that this meeting of G20 has again been marred by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Take us through the statements by Antony Blinken earlier.
Okay, I didn't understand. Sure. Well, the thing is that G20 was created mostly as an economic bloc, right? But what kind of economic prosperity and trade we can talk about when we are in the middle of this terrible, terrible war, which is the biggest war on European soil since the World War II, which is threat for the whole world, not only for Europe, but for global economy, for global environment, for everything. So it's normal, it's very normal that at any global gathering today, this should be issue number one. And this should be issue that all countries should be concerned about. How do we stop this? How do we talk to Russia and tell Russia, withdraw your troops from the land of a sovereign country and stop killing people? It's very simple. And if the world was united about that, maybe it would have been easier to convince Russia to behave as a normal civilized country, not as an aggressive terrorist state.
Right. Absolutely. Olena, thank you very much for being with us on the show and all your valued insights there.
Thank you.
Now, for more on this, our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal, is joining us live from New Delhi. Hello to you, Siddhant. U.S. official says that Blinken held a brief meeting with the Russian foreign minister and pressed on Ukraine. What are the latest details you have for us?
Well, yes, I can confirm that both the ministers had a kind of pull aside on the sidelines of the G20 foreign ministers meeting when the meeting was underway earlier today at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Now, this is a significant development coming at a time when there is a lot of shrillness between the two sides in the backdrop of the conflict in Ukraine, and perhaps a first major significant meeting between the two sides in many, many months. Will it go down in bringing a relationship to normalcy? It will be something that we have to wait for, but essentially an important meeting that can perhaps in the future lead to a breakthrough when it comes to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. But Delhi being the territory or the host where this pull-aside has happened is something that nobody is going to miss because India is being seen as the diplomatic capital of the world today, given the fact that it's hosting the G20 foreign ministers meeting, an important meeting where, of course, we saw over 35 foreign ministers participating and 40 delegations present and holding conversations over where the future of the global economy and, of course, the politics, the geopolitics behind it being discussed by them.
Right, Siddhant, thank you very much for keeping us up to date. You will, of course, be tracking all the events as they unfold. WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.